Most lawyers think that they need the perfect website and a fancy office and every checklist that your bar association gives you, but that's not what actually gets your law firm off the ground. Today we're going to cover what you really need and nothing else. No BS. Here's how to get your law firm open. I'm Darcel Lobo. I'm an attorney. I've had my own law firm for almost 10 years now, and I coach other lawyers on how to open and manage their law firms. Because it doesn't matter how great of a lawyer you are, if you suck at business ownership, at running your business, at running your law firm, like the business that it is first, you're going to struggle. You've probably been told that you need, all these things before you're ready to open your law firm. But those lists, those are the things that keep lawyers stuck. And if you're waiting to be ready, here's a news flash for you. You're never going to get your law firm open if you're waiting to be ready. So let's talk about some of the myths that I've heard and that I've seen from other lawyers about how to open a law firm. The first one is about an office and that you need this fancy office to be able to open a law firm. Let's be honest. No one really cares where you're sitting. They care about your ability to get their job done. Now, I do have a brick and mortar office. Right now, we're in my home office because I do have a need to see clients in person. And so if you are looking for a brick and mortar, keep it cheap. Don't be expensive. You don't need all the bells and whistles. The easiest thing to do would be to sublease from another lawyer, another law firm, or another, complementary type of business. So if you're in estate planning like me, maybe a financial planner, maybe a tax person. If you're in real estate, maybe a real estate agent's office or a mortgage broker's office, right? Find places where you can sublease from. I know plenty of lawyers who work entirely remotely, that they don't have that need for an in-person office, and that's great if that works for you. I have a need for in-person. I've always had that need in my practice for signings with clients. I don't do DocuSign for estate plans or any kind of e-signing for estate plans. And so I need that in person. And so, you have your virtual offices, you have co-working, you can rent out spaces by the hour, by the day in meeting rooms, kind of on demand when you need them. You have plenty of options. Do not waste your money as a solo trying to have a fancy office because you think it will make you look more legit. You're going to make yourself broke trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to craft this image that you think your law firm should portray. Don't go broke doing that. You don't need to. That's not expected of you as a lawyer and as a law firm owner. The next myth that I see or I hear a lot of is that you need to know everything before you actually start. And that's kind of a trap that us lawyers set up for ourselves, right? We want to know everything before we actually do it. But you are going to learn 90% of law firm ownership after you've opened your law firm. You can watch all the CLEs, download all the checklists. You can watch all my videos. I have many on here about how to open and how to run your law firm. You are going to learn the most of it when you are actually in it and when you are actually doing the actions that a law firm owner does. That's how you're going to learn. You're not going to learn before you've actually opened your law firm. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so don't be in the trap of, I need one more CLE. I need to do this boot camp class. I need to do this, that, or the other to be perfect before I can open my law firm. Don't get stuck in that trap. You do not need to do that. What you do need are some good mentors. You're going to want to have some templates, but you're going to want to start taking action and putting one foot in front of the other as you navigate law firm ownership. Now, another myth that I see and hear a lot of is the cost of opening a law firm. You can open your law firm for very little money, and I'll make sure I link below. I did a video on how I opened my law firm with under $2,500, and that included rent for my brick and mortar office when I went out on my own. So I'll make sure I link that below. I am all about opening your law firm with with a small budget, with not a lot of money, because that's how I opened mine, right? I didn't have all the things when I opened my law firm. I didn't have all the things until I had the revenue coming in to pay for all the things, right? So I was very simple. I was very lean and did not spend a bunch of money. I didn't have any debt for the law firm. That's just not how I approached opening my law firm. So the minimum essentials that you're going to need are, your basic malpractice insurance. And if you are working a part-time schedule, let's say, if you're a parent of young children, right, and you are working 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week in your law firm, make sure you ask your malpractice insurance provider about part-time policies. They do offer part-time policies. And so you want to make sure you ask about that if you're working a part-time schedule in your law firm. You might need a trust account if you're taking IOLTA, a trust deposits. Maybe you're not. So you need to decide if you need that or not. You're going to want your operating account with that. Practice management software, I say, not so much. When I went out on my own, I did not have practice management software because I didn't have the revenue coming in to pay for it when I opened up my law firm on day one, right? And that was something that I felt like I can add that in later. So you can use a simple Word doc. I'm a big fan of a whiteboard. I used to have a very large whiteboard that I would just have all my clients on and all their statuses on to kind of track what was going on. Now, when I had like 20, 25 clients, like that worked great. That was fine. I just checked this morning because we actually, aside from using MyCase for practice management software, we also use Asana for task management. I went through my Asana. We currently have 61 active clients. So a whiteboard for that, for the statuses and task management is not the best. But when you're first going out on your own and you only have a handful of clients, do you really need to pay for practice management software? If you think that you do, if you need it, then sure, go ahead and do so. But I did not. And I did just fine in my practice. Again, once I got busy enough, I had the revenue coming in, I had a number of clients that warranted client management software, then I did at that point in time. Again, when it comes to your law firm, you're going to want to make sure that you have an online presence. So a simple website, don't spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a website unless you want to and you have the money to do that. I didn't have the money to do that. So I did my own website on Squarespace. They have really great templates. I think it's like $200 a year, maybe somewhere around that, to have your own law firm website. And then again, as you get busier, you have more revenue coming in. That's when you're going to add on, upgrade the website, improve things later. But you don't need it to get started. And then I also use GoDaddy for like buying my domain name, for getting my email. But again, like, I wasn't spending a bunch of money. Again, I had $2,500 to get my law firm open. That's all I had. So that money had to go real far. I couldn't just unnecessarily spend money on things that I didn't actually need for my law firm. Along with your website, make sure you are claiming your Google My Business profile. So once you've established your law firm, it is free to claim. That helps you get on maps with Google, how you start getting reviews and building your online presence. So make sure you claim that and fill it out, and that's free to do yourself. And then you're going to want a phone number, right? You're going to want your email. I mentioned I use GoDaddy for mine. But those are kind of like the basic things you need. You're going to have your laptop. You're going to have a printer, right? But you don't need a whole lot of stuff. So figure out kind of bare bones what you need to open your law firm. And then that's it. And you open your law firm. We're not waiting for all the bells and whistles before we open our law firm. Again, unless you have the resources and money to do that. I was not in that position 10 years ago when I went out on my own. So everything else, all the extras can be added later once the revenue is coming in. So we started off with the things that you don't actually need to open a law firm. Let me tell you what I think are the 5 things you do need to open your law firm. You need to be clear on your practice area, what you do, who your ideal client is. You need to be clear on that. And there can be more than one practice area. I think first of all, having more than one practice area is probably actually preferred, especially if you have a practice area that's market driven. Like a big part of my practice used to be bankruptcy, and that can be very like ebb and flow, up and down. So I also did real estate. I also did estate planning, which were pretty constant when bankruptcy could go up and down. You need to understand and have a simple client journey. And what do I mean by client journey? How will clients find you? How will they contact you? How will they hire you? And then how are you going to onboard them as your new clients for whatever your practice area is? That needs to be very clear. You need to look at that from the client's perspective. What are they experiencing when they're contacting your office to reach out with an inquiry for a consultation? What does that look like? How are you onboarding them and warming them up to wanting to work with you? You also need to know how you're going to get paid. So if you need to have IOLTA account for a trust deposit, make sure you have that set up. How are you going to collect payments electronically, like with Visa or MasterCard or e-check? I use LawPay. I tell all my law firm owners, use LawPay. Don't use Square. Don't use PayPal. It's not a good look. Go with LawPay. They know how to handle trust deposits. It's for lawyers. So that's what I recommend. And I absorb the LawPay transaction fee as a cost of my doing business. I don't ask my clients to add on a 3% fee, right? That's my cost of doing business. So when I set my fees, for my flat fees, for my estate plans and real estate deals, like I've already factored in the transaction charge from LawPay. That's built into my price. I'm not adding that on. I'm not asking clients to pay that. Okay, it's already wrapped in. Next, I think we're on number 4 now. Your marketing habits. Not it should be plural, not singular. What are you going to do every day, every week to keep your business moving forward? Even though I've been an attorney for 16 years, I've been on my own for 10 years, I have a very strong network. I am still continuing to grow my network, to reach out, to bring clients in to my world to want to hire me, whether that's me meeting with people for coffees, for lunches, going to networking events, serving on boards and committees, doing content. I do videos for my law firm. I write blogs for the law firm. Like, I do a lot of things. And you would think that I probably don't need to, and I probably don't. But to get to where I want to go and some of the goals that I have in my law firm, I talked before on a prior video about the probate course I'm developing, the online program. And so I have goals and benchmarks that I want to hit. I have to continue to feed that pipeline. My biggest job and your biggest job in your law firm is to bring the clients in, bring the revenue in. Lawyering is the smallest part of my day. When you've opened your law firm, you will quickly see that lawyering is the smallest part of your day. Your job is to bring the business in. And lastly, number 5, I think there's something to be said about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're going to be doing a lot of new things for the first time as a law firm owner. So it's completely normal to have the fear. It's completely normal to have the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome. And to feel like you don't know what you're doing. That's normal because this is the first time you're doing these things. If everything was comfortable, if we just stayed in our comfort zone, we would never experience the successes that we want to have in our life. So just know that it's not just you. Everybody feels that way when they're doing something new. Even lawyers, even law firm owners, they go through these emotions. And your job is to keep showing up anyways, to know that it's normal, and to embrace the being uncomfortable. Like, that's just part of the process. It's part of the journey. You don't get the fast track. You don't get to skip the messiness and the hardships of law firm ownership. You have to navigate through that to be a successful law firm owner. So that takes me to, let's talk about this a little bit more. Let's talk about what nobody wants to talk about, the uncomfortable thing, the thing that they are unwilling or scared to say out loud. And that's the fear. If you're opening your own law firm, you don't know what you're doing. 10 years ago, I did not know what I was doing. And I've shared with you before that I doubted and contemplated and thought about going out on my own for 2 or almost 3 years before I actually did. And I still didn't know what I was doing. I read all the books, I watched all the videos, I did all the checklists, and I still had no idea what I was doing. And you're going to have no idea what you're doing either. You know, we're lawyers. We don't like to take risks. We want to know the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how. Like, we want to know all those things before we do something. We're very risk averse, right? But you're going to have to start having a little bit of faith in yourself. You're not going to know everything. You're just not. And that's okay because we learn by doing. Again, you could watch all the videos I have put up, there's over 100 of them about how to open and run a law firm. You're still going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. You're still going to be scared. You're still going to have the fear. But you're supposed to. You're taking a big risk, but it's on yourself. And every time I bet on myself, I win. And if you bet on yourself, as long as you're willing to show up and do the work, you will win as well. You will have a successful law firm. Now, we're not going into law firm ownership blind, right? There is a plan. You have my free business plan template down below for you to get. But now is the time for you to start putting one foot in front of the other and knowing, okay, I don't know all 100 steps of this journey of being a law firm owner, but I know step 1, and then I know step 2, and I can take steps 3 and 4 and then get me to 5, right? That's the journey. That's the process. So if you want to open your own law firm, here's what to do. Let's just keep it real simple. We're going to stop complicating opening our own law firm. You are going to pick your date. That can be 30 days from now, maybe it's 90 days from now, maybe it's 6 months from now. Whatever your date is, you are going to pick that and put that on your calendar. Then you're going to get your free business plan that I have linked down below for you, and you're going to fill it out completely. And then you're going to work the plan, and you're going to work it over and over and over again. I've been doing this for 10 years now on my own. I am still revisiting my plan, tweaking it, and working it over and over and over again. That's how you get to the success that you're looking for. Here's my last takeaway. You don't need perfection. You're never going to get there. I'm never going to get there. There's always things to improve in my law firm. I'm always tweaking my website. I'm always changing our processes. I'm always tweaking my practice areas and what kind of cases I will or not take. You don't need perfection. You need direction, and then you need to take action. And that's the hard part, is taking the action over and over and over again, right? But that's what you need to succeed and to have the law firm that's going to give you the freedom, the time, the income that you want. So I hope this has helped you. And maybe for some of you, this is a sign that you needed, that it's time to open your law firm. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you're subscribed, because we talk all things law firm ownership over on this channel. So all right, that wraps us up, and I'll see you in the next one.